You know how they say sex is not about sex, sex is actually about power, right? That's just one aspect of what the act of sex is about. But to reach that point of understanding what sex is, we need to understand our understanding of sex and everything that goes around it, right?
Hi, listeners. Melting Pot is privileged to be collaborating with the Zero Period for a series of conversations with their team on awareness about comprehensive sexuality education. Hi, everyone. Today I'm in conversation, as you can see, the beaming Simran Nanda. Simran is a sexuality educator in with the Zero Period, and as you're aware, the Zero Period and Melting Pot are sort of doing this very collaborative series because I think it's important to have this conversation. And it's important for me also as Melting Pot to create a platform that can be used, for further kind of awareness. So thank you so much, Simran. I know you're on vacation and you've taken time off to chat with me. So I'm really grateful for that. So thank you so
Sure.
much.
No, you're welcome. I was actually pretty much thrown away from work meetings because I was told that you better not log into work from vacation. And today morning, I just surprised everyone on the meeting saying hi. I've opened my laptop and I'm going to work. So there's so much you can do to avoid me. So yes, I am here because I love doing what I do, to be very honest. So it's great to be sitting in Goa and be able to talk about what I like. So I'm genuinely going to have a good time, I'm sure.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so let's just get a little background on you, Simran, before we kind of do a deep dive into what you love to do and what we're here to talk about.
So I have actually been working in this space for pretty much since I was 14 or 15. My school, which is in New Delhi, was the first in the whole of India to talk about the queer community at a school level. And I just remember this was back in 2014 when there was a judgment where 377 was decriminalized for a while, and then it was recriminalized by the Supreme Court. So this happened sometime around 2014, and so there were a lot of protests happening in Delhi. Delhi is anyway the capital for all political happenings, so there were a lot of protests around the city, and suddenly I'm seeing a lot of rainbow flags around me. And then my school gave me this platform to, they started a campaign to talk about the queer community and just understand it as a student too. And I have been someone who's always been, in the forefront of co-curriculars. Like I've been a public speaker since I was a kid. So I'm that person who is always like extremely social. I love to take up responsibilities, participate in competitions. So I took up this campaign, and I still remember being trained about sexuality at the age of 14 by an organization called KRIA, which worked alongside NAS Foundation, which led the whole battle for Section 377 at at the lawful level. And I still remember I was introduced to the idea of sexuality at the age of 14. I was told what the community stands about, what the problems the community faces in terms of when we had 377 back in the day, and like a very simplified understanding of the law and its implications. And I remember that being my first brush with heterosexual privilege. So I think that was the starting point of my understanding around the topic. And then I just resonated with it so much because I come from a matriarchal family. I come from a family which has since generations been run by just women. So I feel like, to be very honest, I was pretty much born a feminist, and I just found the perfect way to channelize it. And I show up as an empath in all aspects of my life. I'm an extremely sensitive person. I get affected by things happening around me, and I know that I have it in me to do something about it. I genuinely just took that personality trait, made it my strength, and worked the next 5-6 years in the space of queer rights, sex education, and then gender-based violence, plus my own experiences growing up as a liberal-minded woman in a place like Delhi. I feel like I lived what I was doing at a personal level, and at the same time, I was privileged enough to make myself understand that I could give myself the educational backing to do something about it at a professional level as well. So I feel like this whole space is very personal for me, like it is for anyone else. But I am actually on my way to make a profession out of it. I very recently got an offer from Boston College School in the US to join them for a master's in social work, which I hopefully will be taking on. And so I am I'm in this. I'm in this. It's like a lifelong service for me. So that's where I'm coming from.
That's pretty commendable. So, um, yeah. So, what are some of the very prevalent issues when it comes to women's sexuality and how it's used against them from a very young age? What are some of the instances that you can you can talk about or mention that actually equate to women from a very young age being kind of um, uh, I don't know what the word is, but women are all not marginalized, will probably be the wrong word to use, but there's always differentiated, right? So, can you just take me through some of the stages of how that happens?
So, as much as you and I, and probably anyone politically aware of how India functions and the value systems on which so much of our society is based on, obviously, like you said, there is a divide, right? The way women are perceived, the way women are respected or not in society speaks a lot about how women have been placed in society since centuries. And bringing the aspect of women's sexuality, I feel like there are two extremes on which I think people usually operate, society operates. I think one extreme is being liberal, independent, open-minded, open to exploring one's sexuality, open to knowing and trying to understand one's sexual rights and asserting them in spaces. And the other end is the oppressed end, right? The oppressed end where women are hailing from patriarchal societies, patriarchal families, and are constantly being hidden from being able to explore their sexuality. And at a certain point of time, people end up internalizing it. So you kind of place this inner limitation on yourself that this is the binary in which I want to know things. Like, say, for instance, an oppressive, misogynistic, heterosexual relationship is something a lot of women grew up around, seeing around them in a place like India. And that's all they know. And simply because the oppression is internalized to the point where women are not able to garner that there is more and there is better. So, it's not only societal pressure, it's the pressure or the ideas and value systems your generations of parents give you, how you where you grow up, how you grow up, who do you talk to, what traumas inculcate in your head to make you the person you are today. So I feel like sexuality is used as a weapon against women in two very different ways. And if I get a little more explicit, the simplest way to put it, you know how they say a woman is either a prude or a slut. These are two words which are very strongly associated, and these are the two bipolar ends of the spectrum across which women are judged for their sexual choices. So yes, I think there's this like the battle is so big that it not only exists, like I said, on one tangent, but like, there's a spectrum over which there is judgment from different aspects and different parts of society. So I feel like, yes, so for starters, I think this is where I can base my conversation.
Hmm. Okay. What is the difference between gender and sexuality?
That I feel myself to be a woman or a man or neither or both. So that is how I perceive myself to be. And how you perceive yourself to be is also very closely bound with the society's idea of what gender expression looks like. So if I am a woman, I my gender is that of a woman and my expression is feminine. So that's the binary in which people think. What my sexuality is so much more than that. My sexuality is how I want to dress up, how I want to talk, how I want to walk, who I want to talk to, who I want to get romantically or intimately or physically involved with. And that aspect of my behavior based on the gender I associate myself with, or I don't associate myself with, is my sexuality. So my sexuality is not something that is per se visual, but more behavioral.
Yeah.
It's how, yes, how I perform in society. I mean, my understanding of how we perform in, like, our sexuality shows up in every aspect of our life. Like, say, for instance, I am someone who identifies as a very liberal woman, in terms of expressing my sexuality and in terms of giving someone else the space to express their sexuality, which forms a base for how I present myself in society and professionally as well. So sexuality is more behavioral and gender is more going to do more with how you identify yourself.
So, as a comprehensive sexuality educator, what exactly do you do? What is your role? What is it that um, what kind of training is involved?
All right. So, like you said, the whole idea of comprehensive sexuality education is very vast. Now, the biggest misconception, which I feel like we are still not close to tapping into, is that people think that CSE is about teaching people how to indulge in sex, the act. People think it's about the act. You know how they say sex is not about sex is actually about power, right? That's just one aspect of what the act of sex is about. But to reach that point of understanding what sex is, we need to understand our understanding of sex and everything that goes around it, right? So, say for instance, you meet a person and you would like to say indulge in an act with them. There are 10,000 different steps that you have to take together. Like I said, boundary setting, knowing where you want to stop, which also brings in the concept of consent. How do you verbalize telling someone what you want, what you don't want, what you like, what you don't like? That is the aspect of communication. Fourth of all, knowing how to protect yourself in terms of preventing STIs or unwanted pregnancies or just basic hygiene. That is where the knowledge of knowing and understanding contraception comes in. So the idea of comprehensive sexuality education is very holistic. It's about how you present yourself in this whole space of knowing what your rights are, what do you want, at what point of time in your life do you want it, and how much of it, for how long, with what limitations. And you can't garner an understanding of it unless you have a holistic understanding of knowing what sexuality education is. One more very important aspect, which again people get wrong. Number one was that it's all about sex. The other one is, why do we want to talk about comprehensive sexuality education with students, with kids? And the answer is very simple, that the whole premise of comprehensive sexuality education is based on an age appropriate model. I have worked with kids from kindergarten, nursery, up to university students, and now with the zero period, I'm working with teachers, which are also, it's pretty synonymous to working with parents as well, because so many of them are parents themselves.
Yeah.
So working on a spectrum of like a wide age group, I can tell that age appropriate sex education is what we strive for, right? For a kindergarten kid or a kid in first grade, it's important to understand what safe touch is, what their private parts are, what is okay to accept from a stranger, what isn't, why is it important for you to say no, why is it important for you to have a safe space, little things, right? We are not going to go to first graders and tell them things that they would not be able to understand. So the idea of age appropriate, and this intervention is important because if a first grader knows how to say no, only then after 10 years or 8 years that they are informed enough to put themselves as, as sexually active people, they can actually assert what they want and how they want it. And that education has to start very soon, right? It's the same thing. It's just as important as any other soft skill, right? We teach our kids to say thank you, to say no, say yes, be courteous. All of that behavior encompasses into the person you become. It becomes a part of your personality. And humans are sexual beings, right? We are active sexual beings. This is just as important as any other skill is. So that's answering the first part of your question. The idea of CSC is very, very, very holistic and age appropriate. Secondly, what I do as an educator is that I have involved myself in two aspects from the last 4 years or so. One being curriculum design. So, say all the interventions that I have done in terms of the material that is prepared to be presented to our target audience is where the research and the curriculum design, understanding the demographic, the target audience, the kind of education they need, the kind of topics which are important to put in the forefront are things that I consider when I do my research and make a comprehensive manual, say for instance. So that is one part of what I do, which is curriculum design. The second part is public speaking, because like I said, I've been a speaker since I was a kid. I have also delivered sessions. I have talked to kids from first to second grade. I have talked to pre-adolescent kids, fourth, fifth graders, teenagers. I have also talked to girls in universities, college students, 18 to 21, and and now teachers too. It's been a very holistic experience. So delivering content and making it is basically the position in which I am right now as a sexuality educator.
So nice to talk to you, Simran. I think you've kind of, I like the way you deconstructed, and kind of taken me and, of course, the listeners and the viewers eventually on how it is perceived, and what are the different aspects of sexuality and the comprehensive sexuality education specifically that the zero period is kind of hoping to create an awareness about. I think that's pretty phenomenal. Thank you so much, and good luck. And I think what you, along with the rest of your team at the zero period, is doing is just the first step, and and hopefully it will kind of have a much bigger impact. It won't happen overnight. It will take time, but I'm sure it's eventually going to happen. And wish you all the very best for pursuing your masters, because then you'll come back and you will have that much more to of an understanding than what you already have to be able to then impart it, so yeah, no, this has been a very, very interesting conversation. Thank you so much. And now go enjoy the rest of your trip in Goa.
Thank you so much, Paya. Thank you for being so accommodative. And your line of questioning was so interesting. And I am so glad that you're making a conscious effort to put our ideas on a global platform. I really do hope that this idea reaches out to more and more people, and that there are people who actually have the heart and the will to invest in this space, because that's all that we need. There's so much intellect in this world. There's just not enough people willing to invest in this sector. So, the more the merrier. We need all kinds of support. So thank you so much again. I really appreciate the fact that, this collaboration happened, and that you are taking this idea to a global platform. So we definitely really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Simran. Yeah, I mean, if I can make a difference, even in a very small way, as a platform, I would really be happy. So take care, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Working in the treacherous and very niche space that is comprehensive sexuality education in India, the Zero Period depends upon donations and external funds by community members who believe in the mission and the vision of the organization. If you are willing and you're able to, please do donate to the crowdfunding campaign of the Zero Period by clicking on the link in the description. Thank you. For more weekly conversations, do listen to Melting Pot on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts. Follow us on YouTube and on Instagram at Podcast Melting Pot. So until the next episode, this is Payal signing off.